Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Boozer here. Thanks for stopping by. In today's video, we're going to go over the newest updates in the upcoming Titan event for Thor's 5-star souls, as well as basically just go through what we can do to basically maximize our efficiency in terms of what we want to get. We did get the unfortunate news drop that the Summon Rush will have the Titan event hammers in it, and this is actually really something that wasn't expected, but kind of is expected. In terms of having this third Summon Rush, it was very likely that Plarium could have handled this in two different ways. One is that they could have made this Summon Rush really, really expensive in terms of offering players a option to finish the Thor fusion, but basically charging them a lot to get the points to finish the fusion. Or they can make this third Summon Rush really, really enticing so that players that are finished up to this point still go for this Summon Rush because it's so enticing. But they would just basically get extra fragments towards this champion Mauled, right? Because you'll be getting some pretty low value return rewards for your shards if you've already completed your Thor fusion, but then you still wanted to go for the Summon Rush. Looks like that is the case right now, because right now we don't know how many points it will cost for the remaining fragments, but we do have a very juicy extra legendary event from Sacred Shards happening for this Summon Rush, as well as faction unity bonuses for all the faction unity champions. So there's 6 here. There's actually 7 here. 6 of them will be boosted. The only one that's not included is the Barbarian Gregor here. But there's 6 happening over 2 days, and that's going to be part of the Summon Rush. So they made a really, really juicy Summon Rush here, basically to entice people to spend their shards. And, for players that have already finished Thor, it's not really worth it because you're not getting really good value for your shards. However, now they've incorporated this Titan event into the Summon Rush, which is a little bit unexpected, but this is basically just an extra way for them to further strong arm us into doing this event. Because we know that Summon Rushes will have plenty of Titan points in it. And if you plan to finish the 5-star reward, 5-star soul for Thor, it's probably going to cost you, probably doing the Summon Rush. If you plan to skip this Summon Rush, it's going to give you very limited flexibility for the rest of the 2-week Titan event. So you can see here the Titan event, it's going to happen tomorrow. It's a pretty standard one, 1,500 points for the max reward, 1,750 available. And they did mention that I missed earlier in my other video that there will be perfect and split souls. So this is good news. So this means that it's not an all or nothing type of event. There are split souls along the way. So probably starting at 2-star, and then you go for the 3-star split, 4-star split, and then 5-star split at the end. So this is kind of what I think for Thor, and it's a really good thing, right? Because that means players can go for the 2-star, which gives you plus HP plus attack, or you can stop at the 4-star, which will give you plus attack and then plus crit damage, which is really good for Thor. So that's really good, right? That's good to see. At least it's not the 5-star all or nothing type of event that Zinagir was back in January. But this means there's only going to be a total of 250 points that you can omit from your events if you want to do your 5-star soul. So this Summon Rush potentially could have all 250 in it. We don't know exactly how many points could be in this Summon Rush. I'll definitely do an updated follow-up video tomorrow when this Summon Rush goes live, and we'll further dissect what we want to do. Obviously, it would be very important if this was more than 250 points. That means you're basically committing yourself to this Titan event on this first event, if that makes sense to you guys. We've seen, a bit of a range, right? We've seen like 250, we've seen 200, we've seen 300 from Summon Rushes. So Plarium could play this many ways. They could probably play this at 300 and then force us into pulling some to at least get 50, and then basically locking us in for all the events for the Titan event. In this case, they did actually release the first week of the events. It is a 2-week Titan event, but they did release the first week of events. So today is Monday. The event starts tomorrow, the Bayhammer Titan event, and it'll start with a Summon Rush here. so far, nothing too crazy with the events. Everything looks kind of normal. There is an Odin's trial tournament, which is a bit interesting that they're throwing that in there because, you know, not everyone's going to have a team ready for this that can farm this efficiently. So it's kind of a bummer to see, but they're tying in some hammer points in there. Also, the rest of the tournaments and events look pretty standard: Dragon, Fire Knight, Classic Arena. And then they've already disclosed the champion chase. Of course, some of these will change. They're going to add more info as the days go by. For this champion chase, I'd be surprised if it was just a normal champion chase. It should be 2x Ancient, but I'm not going to say that for sure. It's just how the events are lining up. This should be a 2x Ancient. With that being said, I don't think it's going to be anything Odin related. It shouldn't be the Odin champion chase. They still have time. They still have time for all this Asgard stuff to happen. So even Odin's champion chase or Freya's Deck of Fate, they've already specified these things will happen, but they have 5 weeks to do it. So there's still time for them to put those two events into the game. So with that being said, this champion chase, it might just be a standard 2x Ancient, in which case it will be an extremely high value event for basically anybody with Ancient shards. It'll be easy to finish because you have Ancient shards, hopefully, and so forth. So so far it looks pretty standard. Nothing looks crazy for the first week, but of course they can definitely change things and add things as they go. Now, I want to say that the week afterwards, on this weekend, the weekend afterwards, I think it's a good spot for them to put the Freya Deck of Fate, because as we know, in most of the Titan events that occur, there's usually a Deck of Fate that happens. And usually this is probably the event that probably ends people and is the event that usually has tons of points in it, Titan points in it. And it's a really tough event for players to expect anything out of it, because unless you can flip all the cards, you can't really expect an exact amount of things from it. So example, if you are looking for 100 points exactly from it, it's very hard for you to get exactly 100 points unless you get ridiculously lucky with your card flips. So I would definitely think a Deck of Fate is coming on this weekend. And it lines up with my idea that it would be a summon Deck of Fate as it would be, because it would be a summon rush here. And having it associate with Freya would basically double the stakes, obviously, on the table. So if you're cutting the Thor Titan event points close up until that point with the Deck of Fate, that might be the end of your chase for the 5-star soul, because if you can't finish that Deck of Fate, it's going to be really tough for you to guarantee your points. So with that being said, if you plan on going for the 5-star soul, I definitely recommend you guys going for this summon rush in the beginning, because even though you might have finished Thor already, or you might not have, if you have finished it, then you're going to get a little bit lower value rewards from your shards. But having a really good extra legendary event from Sacred Shards, and also just a summon event to go with it, you're going to pick up the points here, and then you're going to be set up at least for the first week or so, because you don't want to be caught with low points heading into the Deck of Fate and then hoping to make it up there, because you never know what that's going to entail, and it might just be a massive strain on your resources. So yeah, overall, I think it's pretty nasty that they obviously put the hammer points in here. It doesn't give you a bunch of a break at all from the fusion leading up into the hammer, the Titan event, sorry. And then having them both mix into like basically a pretty crucial event, right? At the end, it's kind of, definitely them playing everything pretty well, basically doing company things, right? Plarium things. But it would have been nice if obviously they disclosed this little bit of information. It would have made people I think it would have made people skip the second summon rush and then wait for this one, so that they can pick up the hammer points, as opposed to doing the one that just happened over the weekend. For me personally, I left this summon rush open because my reasoning was, in previous hybrid fusions, the extra summon event with the 50 fragments was usually cheaper when you pick up all 50, as opposed to picking up the 25 in 2 separate events. So that was my reasoning for basically skipping the summon rush and heading into the last summon rush. But obviously it worked out in my favor because the Titan event hammer points will be in here as well. And there's an insane sacred event that's happening with the 1+1 sacred event, and obviously the boost on the faction unity champions. So very, very good event, obviously to entice people to participate, of course. But in any event, I kind of want to give you guys some pointers in terms of what you guys should do if you guys are on the fence about this event. So usually if I have conflicting priorities, I usually use like bits of reasoning to try to logic my way into doing something. So for example, if you're heading into this summon rush and you have a lot of shards, you're close to Mercy, or you're in Mercy. Mercy basically means you get extra boosted percentage for every pull you got. So for example, your sacred shards start at 6%. So once you hit Mercy after 12 summons, you get an extra 2% each. So you go from 6% to 8% to 10% to 12% with each pull. So once you're in Mercy, you know, obviously your chance of pulling legendary increase every time you miss one. So basically to reason your way into doing this, you basically need a lot of sacred shards. You need to be in Mercy, so your odds are boosting every time. And if you're interested in the faction unity champions, then, you know, that would be obviously another bonus. The other thing is, if you're planning to go for the Thor fusion, I would definitely strongly recommend doing the summon rush early and getting the points, racking up the points early, so you don't have to rely on a potential deck of fate next week, not this week, next week, because this week is a champion chase. I don't think it's going to be early next week, because early next week will be CBC. Usually they don't have anything crazy for CBC. It's just going to be like a progressive event. So I would imagine if there is a deck of fate, it's going to be near the month end, near the Titan event end. And that's where they're going to get a lot of people if you're not ready for it. So like I said, guys, if you guys are interested, if you guys have a lot of shards close to Mercy, interested in the 5-star soul for Thor, interested in the Uni champions, then this is probably a pretty good event for you guys to pull sacred shards. If you guys answer no to any of that, if you guys have no shards, if you guys are not in Mercy, if you guys are not interested in the soul for Thor, if you guys are not interested in faction unity champions, it might be an event where you skip, save up shards, and then prepare for the guarantee, potentially a guarantee shard opening deck of fate for Freya. Unfortunately, we don't know whether Freya will be 100%, you know, based on shards. There's going to be a second component, most likely, maybe soul stones. But it's better to save your sacreds if you're not in Mercy, and if you don't have much shards, and if you're not interested in the soul or anything like that, you can kind of pick up like low end souls, low end rewards for the Thor fusion of Thor soul event, Titan event, without actually pulling shards. So that's the thing, right? So if you're low on shards, if you don't really have too much reason to pull shards, you might want to sit this one out. Just prepare for, you know, 2 weeks time, preparing for the next fusion, for example. That kind of might be worth your while. There's also something like the Halloween fusion to consider. So for example, if we look at the nearby calendar here, so on the 20th, so this weekend, we have a champion chase. Next weekend, my guess is would be a deck of fate, would be shard related deck of fate to end off the Titan event. And then on the 4th, because the 1st is the end of the Titan event, on the 4th, October 4th, it really depends where Plarium goes in terms of their scheduling. If they go with a deck of fate, they could really follow this up with a summon rush, and that could be the start of the new fusion. I think October 4th would be the start of the new fusion. In the past, the Halloween fusion always started really late. So for example, this year, I wouldn't be surprised if the Halloween started right on Halloween, October 31st. However, if we're expecting a fusion to start on the 4th, it doesn't really give much time for the 31st, unless the fusion is only 2 weeks long. So going from the 4th to the 8th, 1 week break, and then right into a Halloween fusion. That might be kind of crazy. So I'm not 100% sure how that's going to work, but to be honest, an October 4th start to a fusion right after this Titan event kind of makes sense. The 1st end and then 4th fusion right away. I think that kind of makes sense. But having the Halloween fusion usually late in October also makes sense for Plarium. So I would expect the Halloween fusion to start on Halloween this year, most likely. But We never know exactly, but that would be my most reasonable guess. So those are some things to consider when you want to think about pulling for this. I wouldn't just pull it just for willy-nilly. Like I said, it's going to be 6% odds. It's not great. And obviously, if you're not super invested into the faction unity hype, it's not a game breaker or anything. And if you're not in Mercy, it's a really big gamble, and it might be worthwhile just to save the shards just for future events and future considerations. Also, guys, I want to make sure that you guys are aware that we did test out saving the crystals here, the whatever these crystals are, the soulstone crystals from the previous soulstone event. So basically what you do here is you do the event with the reward, don't collect the reward, let this event expire, and then let the reward basically expire. It will go into this inbox here when this pool expires, if this pool expires. So if this pool is still active and then your event basically expires and then your rewards come here, then this will automatically pull for you. Otherwise, you can hold on to this and carries over into the next Soulstone event. So for me, I did save this from the previous Soulstone event because I wasn't interested in that one. And this one, honestly, I'm not really that interested in at all either. So I might just do the Sand Devil event and then save that 45 for the next Soulstone event, summon pool event. But this 45 here will get automatically summoned because it was from the last event. But we showed that it works. Similar to how the prism system works, it's going to be the same thing. So it's actually kind of nice to be able to kind of control it a little bit. Not really, but gives you a little bit of control as opposed to having zero control. So here I could have two pulls. You know, I could have two pulls for this pool if I wanted to. But I think since I have none of these champions, I'm probably not going to do two pulls. I'll do the mandatory one pull, and that's going to be it. But just something to keep in mind for future if you guys are interested in that kind of strategy. We now know 100% it works. So, all right, guys, that's going to be it for the video. I just wanted to do a quick overview on the first week of the Titan event. I just wanted to talk about the first summon rush a little bit. Obviously, at the time of my first video, I didn't have this information available with the hammer points incorporated into this summon rush. Obviously, this is going to provide a lot of, negative feelings because some people, like I said, would have finished Thor already. And now they're faced with the decision to do the hammer points in this event, to try to get the 5-star soul. But they're just gonna get some useless fragments as well. So if we had a little bit better heads up, we could obviously skip 2 events and then jump into this summon rush. But this is one of the ways that Plarium would play it. Like I said in this video, they could have made it really, really expensive to tax people that basically, left it to the end or, are trying to recover their fusion with this last summon rush. We still don't know, right? Because it's still 10 hours away. The point totals for this could be absolutely outrageous. But even if it was outrageous, I think we still probably have to do it just for the Titan point event. And obviously for the insanely, pretty good, right? It's for a good sacred event as well. And of course you get some summon rush rewards there as well. So definitely some backlash with some of the, the lack of transparency, but Plarium doing Plarium things, I guess. Hopefully this doesn't affect you guys too badly, but we have to see how many points are in this summon rush to make a final verdict on it. Obviously the Fey Hammer Titan event, you can only skip 250 points. So if there's 300 points in here, you can't skip all 300. So it's a bit of a drag, but let's see what happens. I'll be here to break down all the events as they occur, and we'll try to navigate through this Titan event the best we can. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching the video. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think about all this. Were you guys negatively affected by this Fey Hammer Titan points, including in this summon rush? Are you guys excited for the 1+1 sacred event with the faction unity champions included? Yeah, let me know in the comments, and have a great day. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.